4, container, is context. Thank you all for being here. You each had a song line that made this a necessary place for you to be this morning. So honor the blessing that you are for everybody else in the room, and honor the blessing that everybody else in this room is for you. Take it into your body. Notice, love, be. Call and response. There's a global wealth divide. Response.
There's a global wealth divide.
Yeah. Economic apartheid.
Economic apartheid.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
And it's right here.
And it's right here.
In my local community.
In my local community.
We talk to people.
We talk to people.
People told us. Some people have access to all the credit and capital they want.
Some people have access to all the credit and capital they want.
We have none.
We have none.
The solution is
community
control.
Community control.
What does that mean?
What does that mean?
All right, thank you. So the container is that we're in a neighborhood where there is no community-controlled financial institution. There is no bank within the boundaries of the neighborhood. There is no credit union. All there is check cashing outlets. The people who we interview on one day say, we need to have control of our own financial institution. So that's the container. Another container is that this is happening during a neighborhood movement, the Neighborhood Revitalization Program, NRP, in the city of Minneapolis. So there's actually resources for people to dream together in a new way. So that's a different, aspect. That's another container that matters here. All right? Should I move right to differences?
Please
do. When you make an invitation to people to come together to start a new financial institution, think about who was in that space. The only people who came were people who needed this. So we had 35 people who we interviewed on one day, me and 2 other community organizers. All of them said we need to have our own financial institution. So I said, how many of you have a checking account somewhere? Almost nobody's hands went up. How many of you know what your credit score is? Almost nobody's hands went up. How many of you have any experience working in a financial institution that could help us run one if we started one? No hands went up. So I laughed and I said, well, this is ludicrous. We've got a whole bunch of people who don't have the capacity to make this happen. Why should we even bother? And they said, we don't have an option. We can't trust that the outside is going to come in and do anything that's going to lift us up and help us in the way that we need help. We have to do it for ourselves. So with that reality, we looked at, well, how do we take advantage of what we do have? What kind of a financial institution model would allow us to take care of ourselves collectively? So we looked at all of the models. We tried to bring in a South Shore Bank model. We found out we need $3 million. That wasn't going to work because we didn't have money in the room. We looked at starting our own version of a revolving loan fund, just sort of sharing the meager resources that we have and having one person get money one week and another person get it the next week. And people said that didn't add up. We weren't going to get very far using that strategy. So after a lot of investigation, we decided that the difference that made a difference is that there's a financial model that you can start with no money down, bringing in a lot of external money that allows you to really bring the community together and have true community control. And that's the Community Development Credit Union model. So we started a Community Development Credit Union. All of us poor people. We put together a charter. We sent it in. And the NCUA, who we had charter us, said, it's all good except for one thing. All of your board members failed the credit test.
A difference that makes a difference.
So we fired ourselves as the board.
That's an exchange.
We went back out to the neighborhood and we interviewed people and we just said, hey, do you have good credit? We found 7 people with good credit and we asked them to be the board. We sent the paperwork back in, we got the charter approved, and we had our founding meeting, and we fired those 7 people. They knew in advance that we were going to do that. And then the people with no credit came back in and ran the financial institution. Okay? So we ran a financial institution for 6 years, and then we merged into Wings Financial. Okay? And while starting this credit union, first day on the job. There's an American Indian woman who's walking by down the street, and she comes in and she's crying. So I said, what are you crying for? And she says, I've walked by the last couple of days here, and I just see something beautiful happening here, and I want to be part of it. And I said, you're welcome to be part of it. Well, what role would you like to play? And she started laughing and said, you have no idea what I do for a living. I don't have a reason to be here. I'm not worthy. And I said, yeah, you are. And she said, I sell crack in the park down the street. And I said, great, you're an entrepreneur. You're hired. She started working for me that day as an AmeriCorps volunteer. And 3 weeks later, she and I were on a plane to a conference where we learned about the individual development account model. As soon as we got back, we wrote a bill, and I called my legislator, Karen Clark, and I said, I just wrote a bill for you, come and get it passed. She went to the legislator, she fought, she got it passed, and I turned it into the Family Assets for Independence in Minnesota program that some of you are aware of, the state's IDA program. So within one innovation, other innovations are fostered, right? This is important to recognize. You never have a consciousness of just how huge a little ripple can be. So that's the story.
Now you've heard two really wonderful stories of a place where they paused, they did a what? What's the pattern? What are the containers that matter? What are the differences that make a difference here? And how can we connect them to build a new pattern, right? There are two things about adaptive action. This is the what, so what, now what is adaptive action. And both stories told the adaptive action story. It doesn't just happen once. It happens over and over and over and over again. I wasn't counting, but I think there were 15 in the same story. Right? What, so what now? What, so what? She's walking down the street. What's that? So what does it mean now? What can we do? What, so what, now what? And everybody's doing it at the same time at different speeds. So that woman was walking down the street seeing her what, so what. Sam was doing his what, so what, right? The legislator was doing her what, so what, right? And so when innovation's working, all of those gears of what, so what, now what, are a resource for each other. They feed into each other and feed off of each other. And those of you who have been engaged in social innovations at work, you know how that feels. Well, in just a minute, we're going to let you know how that feels in this room. The people who've brought projects today to share with you want you to be in their adaptive action wheels today. They want to use your point of view to see what containers are holding them back, where they're stuck. What are the differences, either that aren't enough or are too much for the system to move forward? Where are the exchanges working well, people listening to each other or not, making the connections they need to or not? They want to ask you to help them see their patterns and give them ideas about how that pattern can shift.